Welcome back. The first example we're going to go through is a bond that is issued at par value. Okay, so I've got bond A here, and par value is $10,000. The term is 2 years. The contract interest rate is 7%. The market interest rate is 7%, and the issue price is 100. All right, so how do I know this is a par value bond? First of all, the contract interest rate is less than or is the same as the market interest rate. So when the contract rate equals the market interest rate, then we know we will be issuing at par value. The other clue is the issue price is 100. When the issue price equals 100, then we know we have a par value bond. So that's what we've got. So let's figure out how many semi-annual interest payments we're going to make. So that's going to be 2 years times 2, because if we're paying interest semi-annually, that's twice a year, which means we're going to have 4 semi-annual interest payments. It's not as critical for a par value bond, but just good practice. All right, so let's do our next we're going to calculate the semi-annual interest payment. Okay, so our interest payment formula is par value. Actually, let's do this differently. Let's type it out. So it's going to be par value times our contract interest rate, which is 0.07 or 7%, times 180 divided by 360. And when I do that calculation, I find out that my semi-annual interest payment is going to be $350. Because this is a par value bond, that will also be my interest expense. So my journal entry at issuance is going to be a debit to cash, because when we issue a bond, the whole purpose is to get cash. So we'll debit cash, and we're going to debit cash for par value because it's a par value bond. Then I'm going to credit bonds payable, and that will be at par as well. Remember, anytime we debit or credit bonds payable, it's always at par value, okay? Cash may change, we may have discounts or premiums, but we always will issue or will always impact the account bonds payable at par value. All right, so now we're going to do the journal for our semi-annual interest payment. So we're going to debit interest expense, and it's going to be for the amount of cash that we're going to pay because it's a par value bond. And we're going to credit cash because when we make this interest payment, we always pay it in cash. And that's going to be for the $350 as well. So every 6 months, we'll make a journal entry to debit interest expense and credit cash for $350. Finally, when we go to retire the bond, we are going to debit bonds payable, because once we retire it, once we pay it off, we will no longer owe it. And it's going to be at par. And we're going to credit cash, because when we pay it off, the people who hold those bonds are going to want cold hard cash. And that'll be $10,000 as well. All right, a little trick. The journal at issuance and the semi-annual interest payment, that may change if we have a discount or premium. But this last entry at retirement is always going to be a debit to bonds payable and a credit to cash at par value. Regardless of what we issued it for or anything else, it's always going to be a debit to bonds payable and a credit to cash for par value. All right, that concludes our issuing a bond at par value. In the next video, we will talk about issuing a bond at a discount. All right, see you.